Hello everybody and welcome to ULTRA TV, the cinematic wane to Ultra Magazine's Right. We're here today to talk to Sabrina Verjee, who, as you know, has successfully completed the Wainwrights, all 214 of them, in under 6 days. Sabrina, how are you?
Hi Robin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good, thank you. It's a bit of a cheesy intro, that one, isn't it?
Very.
I know.
It's okay.
I couldn't really think of a better one, so lastminute.com. So the Wainwrights, it was your fourth time of asking, and you put that one to bed. So what went differently this time? What worked for you this time that didn't work on the other three occasions?
Well, being able to breathe, we've discovered, is quite useful.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I didn't have an asthma attack, which was good. The weather was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it definitely didn't throw anything game-ending at me. And everything else just stayed together. Yeah. So I think it was more just, a consistent, steady, no fiascos event. It was good. Yeah.
There's a lot of variables on these kind of big challenges, isn't there? And I suppose, would you say some of it's good fortune that it all comes together? I mean, obviously there's a lot of planning, but some of it's in the lap of the gods.
I think over the couple of years that I've been trying to do it, every time I've done an attempt, there's been something to learn from. Even though, like you say, when I look back, it's always been something of the unknown, the unexpected, that's kind of thrown itself as an obstacle in the way. And you can plan as much as you can and train and recce and get the logistics and do everything that is within your control, and get that as good as it can be. And then, like you say, there's some unknowns, some variables beyond one's control. For example, the weather, which changes the ground conditions and how easy it is to make progress on the day. And then there's just you might be unfortunate to have a little incident or accident if you fall over or you twinge something, which can really make things quite difficult. But I think I'm just quite accepting of the fact that I can't control these factors, and it is what it is. Yeah. So it was quite nice that everything sort of allowed me to do it. And so you do need that element of luck, I would say. Yeah,
I guess so. And obviously, as you say, there is all the preparation, physical preparation that we've discussed previously that goes into it. I mean, you didn't allow yourself a lot of time between kind of attempt number 3 and attempt number 4. So did you deliberately have a short window between the two, or was it just you kind of woke up one day and thought, you know what, the weather window looks good, I'm going for it?
Well, I think the thing is you don't always, I put everything I had into attempt 3 because that was going to be the one, right? Yeah. And hadn't anticipated that I wouldn't do it, because you go through full throttle at these things. You know that there's a chance that something stuffs you up, but you go for it. As I said, I put everything into it. And yeah, it was really hard to sack it off, and I had the breathing issues, so it wasn't a choice in the end. So while I was recovering from that, it's the support team, really. Get these messages of never mind, it's not happened, we'll be there for you when you try to go again. And that really shocked me, because I was like, oh my God, everyone wants to give this a go again. I thought I'd annoyed everyone and not pestered them enough for support and things. But I think everyone saw that it was an unfortunate incident, and that actually I really could and should be able to do this. So, they were sort of like, when you're ready to go again, let us know. So I sort of had that in the back of my mind, and there I was recovering. I mean, the first few days was out of the question. I couldn't even anticipate thinking about doing anything again, because I just couldn't breathe. Then I had the dental issues that we talked about last time, didn't we? Oh, God. And I felt like death, and just that, was this actually, ever going to go away, and I was going to be out of pain. But, a couple of weeks. And then my legs had been actually really well recovered. And I think part of that is because they couldn't go as hard as they would normally be able to, because I couldn't breathe. So the breathing had been the limiting factor, not the legs. So the legs actually recovered really quickly. I was surprised. So I'd started to think, I could do it on the 4th of June, and I started to try and set up for that. And then I got the dry socket, and then I was like, oh no. And then I just sacked everything off and thought, no chance, no way. Put it all to bed. And I don't know why I started to think about doing it again, because I'd really decided not to. I guess it was just this niggle of why hasn't it happened for me yet?
Yeah.
So then I started to ask Ben, okay, so if we do it this summer, what week have you got that you'd be able to help me? Because I really wanted him there. And he's, to be fair, had plans for the whole of the summer, because that's his time. I had an adventure race booked. He's got the Fred Whitten. He had loads of other biking events. So the only week that we could both be doing it was the 11th of June.
Right.
And I was like, oh, crikey. And it was after the 4th of June I thought about it. So I had less than a week to think, okay, let's do it. But then I was just like, okay, let's just do it. So messaged everybody, got the team together, did all the logistics, put it back together, and I was like, okay, right. And then it was the 11th of June, and that was that. Yeah. And
it's phenomenal, actually. I because for those people that don't know, I supported Sab on one of the legs, and so I was party to the messenger conversations about pulling the team together. And it was amazing how quickly people were just populating the spreadsheet to go out and do the legs. I mean, and I guess somebody was asking me questions about why do so many people get involved? And I said it's probably quite similar to a sport like Formula One, where you have your mechanics and you have your engineers and you have your data kind of processors, but actually ultimately they want to be part of something, and that's to get the driver to the finish in as fastest time as possible. And I said, I think that's pretty much the spirit that was around you, wasn't it? People like, we want to be part of this, we want to support you, particularly after your third attempt, where really you were looking so strong, and just all these other factors just really impacted on you. And it was great to see everybody just kind of stepping up. You mentioned your asthma, and kind of how the impact that had last time out. Any update on that? How did the trip to London yield anything? Because you were going there for a consultation, weren't you? So talk me through it. Yeah, where are we up to?
Well, no, the trip to London was extremely disappointing. I'll be honest. I'd set everything aside, made this the massive priority, gone down to London to get all the diagnostics done in one day, and they'd wanted to start with an ECG, which I was a bit like, why are we doing that? It's a breathing problem. I'm being a vet, I do have a medical background. I was like, there's nothing wrong with my heart. Anyway, so they started with the ECG and then found an abnormal electrical activity. Right. So on the T waves, so the repolarization, it just flagged to them that there was some serious myocardial dysfunction going on,
right,
and that I was at risk of sudden death.
Wow. Okay.
And I was just like, no, this is such bullshit.
Obviously not.
And I just said, look, this is surely just an athlete's heart. I was pretty confident that my heart would have some changes from all the running, and that this is just what an athlete's heart does. And I did do a little bit of Google search, pulled at some research papers, and it's quite clear that this is probably exactly what an athlete's heart should look like. I was sort of a little bit, instead of being worried about impending doom, I was a bit like, oh yeah, I'm actually, I've got an athletic heart. Amazing.
Go you.
Exactly.
Who knew?
But they were being really difficult about it, and they wouldn't do any of the tests for asthma, like stressing my breathing problems, until they had a cardiologist examine me. We couldn't get a cardiologist there and then. So the gold standard actually is an MRI.
Right.
We use contrast. So they sent me off to the Harley Street Clinic, and I had an MRI, which I have to say was not a fun experience. You go in the machine and it goes da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Now, bear in mind, I had a really severe toothache from a dry socket. I was not in the best place with a headache to be having over my head da-da-da-da, da-da-da, for 45 minutes. And then you have to breathe in, breathe out. 45 minutes. So it was, I was a bit through that, it was probably just one of the most unpleasant experiences of my life. But anyway, I did it because I was so committed to finding out more about my lung situation. So we got the results for that, but we had to wait for a cardiologist to interpret them. To be fair, I'm amazed they could do all of this in one day anyway, but I was pressing because I'd gone all the way to London to do this and I had to go back that evening. But the results came in very, very late. And yes, conclusion was that there is nothing wrong with my heart and absolutely fine. So then we started to do some of the asthma tests, but quite frankly, we ran out of time.
Right,
and so we got absolutely nowhere with it. And I wasted an entire day in London. And luckily, I don't have to pay for these expensive tests because I had some BUPA cover. But yeah, I just lost interest in that.
Okay, so from an asthma point of view then, because there was kind of quite high hopes, wasn't it, these consultation was going to kind of yield some strategic intervention that would kind of improve your asthma responses. So have you done anything else with your asthma, or is it kind of...
So I decided to just do a little bit more reading around it myself.
Okay.
I found a few things. I realised that one of the bigger issues, which I hadn't appreciated, which is driven by the cold, is, you know, you get all these secretions. You know, when in the cold your nose runs and your eyes run and everything's just a bit, weepy. I was getting a postnasal drip, which is where you're getting some drip down the back of your throat. And I think that is causing some of the airway changes. So I looked into how I can stop the postnasal drip. And there were a few things, and I didn't realise that being on the contraceptive pill, for example, may increase postnasal drip.
Really?
Why would you think that? No idea.
Yeah,
so I stopped that. And then I also use a steroid nasal spray.
Right.
Because some of it's from allergens, pollens and things. So that's helped a huge amount. So I did that, and that's it really. But I think the overwhelmingly obvious thing here is that it was the cold air that triggered these things. So I don't think we'll know whether the things I've done will help until I try to do the spine race next year.
Okay.
But I will only do that if I'm really physically fit.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Because I mean, the asthma conversation is really important for other people out there who we've had this conversation before, right? But other people who are out there who say, well, do you know what? I'd really like to get in the mountains, but I can't because I've got asthma. And I think it's just important for them to hear that actually asthma shouldn't be a prohibitive factor in terms of going out and enjoying yourself in the mountains or even doing sports to the level that you do them. So thanks for sharing that with us.
But I think also, I mean, asthma is that there's a scale, isn't there? Because you know, I'm not affected on a day-to-day basis, whereas I do think some people probably are. So, but I do think that the exercise should help them to improve lung function, because when you exercise, if you stress your body a little bit with the breathing, your body responds, doesn't it? So you get your greater lung capacity with using it. So, some good benefits to be had.
Great. Okay, so coming back to the Wainwrights then, so all 214 of them, and I know some people turned out to give you some support. Joss Naylor came out to give you some support, which must have been a bit of a lift. But I mean, psychologically, to keep going for that length of time, it's got to be tough, right? So when was there any point where you thought, oh, do you know what, just sod this, I've had it, or were you just so focused on the goal that you that didn't enter your head at any point?
No, I never thought I want to stop. The truth is, I was really enjoying it. I just enjoyed it for what it was, and I wasn't thinking, oh, I've got X more to do, or it was always just enjoying the people I was with at the time and the scenery. And I think that's the thing for me. I've realised as well that it is the different landscapes and just being outdoors that I love so very much. That it is enjoyable. And I guess you just put whatever your body's feeling in the back of your mind. But I think generally I felt quite comfortable enough during that attempt. Yeah.
Good. Certainly looked comfortable when I was kind of with you. So we had John Kelly and Carol Morgan, not in that order, I don't think. But anyway, John Kelly and Carol Morgan.
Carol Morgan, then John Kelly,
wasn't it?
then Carol again.
Then Carol again, giving it a try. So, I mean, I know it's not all, well, I suppose it's not exclusively about the record, but how would it have felt had you kind of got the record and only held it for a short period of time? Would that have kind of...
So it's interesting that people view the record's that way, and I suppose that's quite natural. You know, they want the fastest person out there, but for me, it'd always been about this 6 days.
Yeah,
that was what was my bugbear, and I've done it. And so my 6 days, it'll always be there for me, and that's what it was. So I actually went out to help John Kelly, and would have been very happy to help Carol if she needed it. And you know, when you're on the other side and you're the team helping that person, you very much want them to get round and do what they're trying to achieve. And that's all that was about. So I remember when John Kelly sacked it off, I felt this amazing amount of despair, actually, probably more than any of the attempts that I'd had to sack off, because I realised I was so invested in his attempt. I was crushed. Yeah. And actually, I was at work when I could see that he was having issues with his feet, and you know, I desperately tried to message the support team, say, look, don't let him get off that hill, and I've got some stuff to fix his blisters and we can sort this, and I will go up to wherever he is. He should just really stay put, go to sleep where he is, and I'll go and help him with his feet, and then we can see if he can carry on. I mean, obviously you don't want to push anyone beyond the limits and you know, make them really suffer, but I thought maybe we can make it more comfortable and just patch him up and just see if that would have let him go, because he was halfway through, and I really wanted him to do it, but I think he'd already made up in his mind and was quite stubborn about the fact that he was going down, and that was that. So I didn't get a chance to intervene, and it was gutting. So I would say and then also Anna Troop just recently, she's smashed the Penang Way, and that's fantastic, and I'm really pleased. And I know you actually ahead. I know what your question is. Is whether I'm going to do it again, Penang Way. And for that one, my mark on that one had actually been 72 hours, and I did 74 hours 30 or something around that time. So that one I hadn't put to bed. Right. That one is unfinished business, and so probably I will go back and do that. And I also want to do it from south to north, because when I did it, I went from north to south and I had a horrendous headwind, and I wasn't recovered from the Wainwrights, and so that one probably at some point I will have another go. But it's certainly not about taking the record back. And my mark is a standalone mark that isn't affected by what other people do. So maybe another lady will go, and I think a lady is more than capable of doing it sub 65 hours. So that may well happen before I ever get another chance to have a go. But that won't put me off doing it again, because my goalpost will always remain a post for me alone, and not about what other people are able to do.
So an exceptionally kind of personal kind of goal for you in terms of what you hope to achieve, and then once you've done that, you're like, okay, well, you're satisfied in your own mind that that's been completed.
And I think that was important for the Wainwrights, because at any point when I was planning it, someone else could have gone and done it faster. And then what? Do you just reset your goal on their achievements? Which is silly, because, you know, I knew that 6 days was going to be a good challenge for me. You know, if someone went and did it in 5.5, you know, that probably, well, not impossible, but really, that really would be. And, you know, maybe one day I'll feel like I can get there. But for me, it was always 6 days. You know, that I think I can just about do. And I got in there with 11 minutes to spare. Yeah, you did. I was so happy, and I don't feel I need to do anything more with that for me.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk to other athletes, that's a recurring theme. Actually, when you talk to people, 90% of them is very much around personal achievement, kind of personal goal setting, and actually equally as happy to support other athletes to achieve their personal goals if that's appropriate. So, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. You're developing this this specialism in multi-day stuff. I know you've obviously the Wainwrights was a multi-day. You kind of survived on very little sleep for that, but you're also doing kind of more organised events. The Dragon's Back's kind of features in one of your favourites, Cape Wrath, you've recently done. Are we going to see more of you in these big multi-day challenges? Talk me through. I mean, which one of these multi-day events would you kind of put up there as one that you'd like to revisit quite a lot? Spine race you mentioned.
Oh yeah, spine race. So there's a difference between sort of Dragon's Back and Cape Wrath and the Spine, in that the Spine is a continuous race. Yeah. and the Dragon's Back and Cape Wrath involved camping each night.
Yep.
Now, having just done 8 days of camping in Scotland with midges, I'm very put off camping. I don't think I liked it that much in the first place. So for me, it's definitely about the continuous events. There's nothing fun about, running all day and then getting into a tent all minging and sweaty without a shower for 8 days on the trot. So that's a definite no for me, of future sort of camping ones. The Dragon's Back, though, I love very, very much. It's definitely a me type race, with spectacular scenery, ups and downs, mountainous, adventurous, really fun. So I could probably put up with the camping for it, although it's now 6 days. So I wouldn't say no to that one again ever, but right now, no, because I've just done one of those.
Just had a busy summer.
Yes. I definitely want to do more of the continuous ones. So Spine is another favourite. And maybe there'll be more of those cropping up, which would be exciting.
I think that in terms of a style of racing, I think that's likely to be increased, events moving forward. There is something unique about the Spine, isn't there? I'll be on the start line too, but
yes, I think there's lots of us.
There is.
It's really cool.
Fair scotch.
So Northern Traverse is the other one. So I did the coast to coast just as a little challenge thing, but I'd really love to race that one at some point. And I know Lisa's got an entry next year, so it'd be quite nice to race with her. But I don't know if I'll be ready for that close after the Spine. So we'll just see.
Yeah, I suppose it's about playing by ear and just checking how your recovery is going along.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose one of the things that I found really interesting about about when you completed the Wainwrights, was just how kind of you were catapulted into the mainstream public's consciousness. There was kind of you're in The Guardian, you're on BBC, you're on ITV. How did that feel for you? Because our sport isn't typically mainstream, so all of a sudden there you are up front and centre, and on the red sofas on BBC Breakfast.
The media is an interesting one. I definitely had no appreciation for how those things work or what it's all about until probably last year. It was the first time I'd ever got called by a reporter wanting to have a chat to me. So I'm one of these people that generally, if you ask me to do something, I do say yes, unless there's a really good reason to say no. So I think that was generally my response. Or someone's asked me to do this. Well, is there any reason not to? Yeah, okay, why not? So I did do what was asked of me. I think my sponsors probably appreciate it when I go and do that. And they've given me a lot, so I'm very happy to give the little back that I can. And I think for a lot of people, you say the fell running is not so much in the media, so I think a lot of people thought that was a good thing to get more people aware of it. But the overwhelming thing, I think, is that a lot of people have said to me that it's very inspiring, and I think that's great. If getting my story out there gets more people onto the Wainwrights and getting them outdoors and getting them running, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it is. And you're a natural anyway. I'm not just saying it because we're here in front of cameras, but you came across so well and really as an ambassador for the sport. So I think in my humble experience, you responded really well to that. And I'm not too sure many people would have been able to kind of just get into the glare of the public spotlight so readily. And from I know a lot of your supporters were really they're almost as proactively gunning for you to do well in those arenas as they were at the kind of out in the mountain arena. So I think So well done for that.
Thank you.
I guess I suppose, do you have any kind of are you able to predict what the future of our sport may look like as a result of kind of increased public awareness of these type of challenges that you've done and other because I think a lot of focus has been given recently to UTMB and the Ironman collaboration and kind of how that may feel for people. Have you any idea, can you, in your experience of the sport, any idea what it might look like moving forward?
I think we've seen it happen before. So I used to do triathlon about 10, maybe 20 years ago. I started doing triathlon when people didn't really know what that was. And I really enjoyed it as this little niche sport. And then that became really commercialised. and I didn't enjoy it, so I found something else to do. I sadly feel that probably ultra running will go the same way, but for some people that's a good thing. The commercialism means it's more widely available for everybody. I do think, though, we'll still have races start when someone has the conception of an idea of putting on a race organizer. It starts small and then builds and becomes commercial. And we've seen that happen quite a few times. And I enjoy doing them when they're at their little infancy stage, when they're not all in the media, let's say, and not all thousands of people turning up, because I don't like the pre-race faff. So I just like to be able to turn up maybe 20, 30 minutes before the start and off we go. And there's not huge dramas about it. But the bigger they are, the more faff there is. So the UTMB, I mean, you have to be there like 2 or 3 days before, and there's this registration. It's like 1,000 marquees that you must go and visit. There's all this stuff. It's just overwhelming for me. But that is historically what has happened, what's going on. The Spine started as a really small little race, but with all the media, it's really popular now. We'll probably start to see the sort of numbers of 500 participants going up to 1,000, and that changes things, and we have to think about then what that does to the trails, because it will change them. 10 years ago, hardly anyone had done the Bob Graham. Now every Tom, Dick and Harry is doing it. So it's not only just the rounds that are going and are successful, it's all the attempts, it's all the recce's. So these trails that were non-existent are now big fat, what I call motorways. And we have to be aware that this is a consequence of our actions. And I'm not saying it's a huge issue. Landscapes change over time. Do we mind? I think if we end up having massive motorway paths everywhere, then we change something and it's never going back. And it will no longer be nice. So we have to think about what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, from an ecological point of view, the sustainability question is a significant one. I mean, you mentioned the Bob Graham, and it's interesting that if you even if you're not out wrecking the Bob Graham, but you're in an area where Bob Graham activity happens, a lot of the trods that even 2-3 years ago really were, you'd have to have a bit of a inside knowledge, or somebody who'd done who'd done some nabbing before on it to point them out to you, and then you'd be able to kind of find them. Whereas these days they are very well defined, aren't they? Or certainly seem to be more defined. And I do wonder, with the commercialisation and the increased interest, which is probably a legacy from the pandemic, exactly kind of what we can do to manage our environment better and ensure that the impact or the footprint we leave behind is less significant. And I suppose, I'd be interested to see how that shakes out, and how the commercialisation, UTMB is the hot topic, but how that translates to things that may be happening over here with some other races that are increasing in size and popularity. So, time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're going to stick at it for the time being. We'll still see you at start lines, hopefully.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And have you got any kind of longer term plans? You mentioned Spine in January. I think January the 6th it starts, isn't it? Something like that anyway.
Yeah, and that's just been rolled over from last year, to be honest. But the entry's still there. I mean, and that's happened to a lot of people. I have also got one for the Cheviot Coat race, but I think I won't do that, knowing I've got Spine as well, and just there's only so much winter.
Didn't
running.
we talk about Tour de Gion last time we had a chat? Were you not lined up for that?
No, because they didn't roll the entries over; they just cancelled them.
Right.
So I could have gone again this year, but no, I'm not ready.
No, it's not right, is it?
Next year, maybe. There's just other things to do now as well.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and you've already demonstrated that you can do stuff with short notice and get things organised at the drop of a hat. So we'll just have to watch this space, will we? Yeah. All right, great stuff. Sabrina, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you ever so much for your time. Always a joy to talk to you. If you've enjoyed the conversation too, please click on the like button. That is reliably informed below the screen you're watching, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sabrina Verjee, thank you ever so much.
Thanks, Robin.
Cheers. Bye-bye.